in building a design, it's so important to think of how this design is going to be taken in by the user and how it's going to impact every moment of their life.
Welcome, everyone, to the TechGuide podcast, where we give actual advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. We have Elsy Meis on the podcast today to talk about UX. This is actually our first person to talk about UX on the show, so super, super excited to do that. Welcome, Elsy, to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Ryan. I'm excited to talk about my career, how I got into it, and everything.
Yes, and we are going to get started with Austin, Texas. Both of us actually moved here. You were August 2022, and I was actually August 2022, which puts us at about a year and a half ago. Great city, great food scene. But I'm curious, like, what is some of like your favorite restaurant or coffee shop in the area?
So I love Benu Coffee. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. Benu.
Yeah.
Their pecan Larry is what it's called. So their pecan cold brew is my favorite in the world. When I was working remote, I would go there all the time. And restaurants. Oh, another one is the Buzz Mill. I used to live right
Two
next
great
to
spots.
it, and I just loved going there for some random comedy nights or beer, just to see the bear in there.
I love the bear.
And they have really good pizza, Bat City Pies.
Ooh.
If you haven't tried that.
I will put my 2 cents in on both these spots because these are actually probably the two locations I get iced coffee from the most, and I'm not even kidding when I say that. Benu, my biggest problem with Benu is whenever I go there, the Wi-Fi is like super slow.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's dreadful. Like, I can't work out of it.
Yeah, you can't be on a call. Every time I try to do a meeting there, it always fails.
Yeah, great coffee though. And then Buzzmill, I think that's actually my favorite coffee in Austin. They recently had like a tiramisu, and it was like incredible. I get it like every Tuesday as like a little treat in the afternoon.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it's super good. But let's talk about UX. And let's talk about like the very earlys when you just got into UX. I want to take people back to when you first got interested in this. Can you share how you came across like this profession? It's not niche, but like a lot of people I feel like don't know about UX, that it's a profession. So yeah, take me to how you came across it and how you became interested.
Yeah. So as a freshman at the University of Colorado, I was in open option engineering. I wasn't really totally sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something creative, kind of blend with technical side. And I was really interested in fashion. And actually at first I thought I wanted to do textiles. So I was leaning towards chemical engineering. And then I had a friend introduce me to what was called there's a major within the engineering school, but in its own design institute called Atlas Institute.
Interesting.
And it was called Technology, Arts, and Media, which has since been changed to Creative Technology and Design, which kind of explains it a little better. It was kind of a hybrid cross between computer science, industrial design, and also kind of graphic design. A lot of media involved. It was very project-based and open, and I just found it really interesting because I got to explore some of the more technical engineering foundational skills while also bringing in my interest in fashion and in writing and just arts and sciences as a whole. And so that kind of got me into that blend of things, which is kind of where UX sits in as a discipline. And through a few of my classes, typography was one of them, computer science, web design and development was a big one. And that's kind of how I got introduced to UX, because there were a lot of professors. Well, we didn't even really have many professors. A lot of them were instructors from that worked at Amazon or Google, any of those that would come in and teach. I was really interested in UX because it kind of blended some of that, the writing interest, because there's UX writing and kind of the way that information sits on a page, and also functionality and with applications and really technical spaces. You can get a lot of different functionality. You can be really creative with diagrams and maps, etc. So that's how I got into it. And I took a couple of classes in UX within my major. And that was kind of the path I took the rest of those years. And my sophomore year, I got into research, and I started as a graphic design, basically intern at an ed tech AI institute. It was with the National Science Foundation at UU. It was called the NSF AI Institute for Student AI Teaming. So it was in the ed tech space.
Yeah.
And my role was to kind of build a lot of schematics for them, which was more in the graphic design area.
Yeah.
But as I got further into the projects, I got to start building out teacher dashboards, kind of think through curriculum processes for teaching coding to middle school students. It kind of gave me a big perspective on how technology can be integrated into learning, into day-to-day and everything outside of just a screen. And that's where I got into UX research as well, which I have a publication that I presented at HCI International, which is Human Computer Interaction, in 2022. And that I covered a method, or a novel method for researching, or for performing user research before a product gets built, gathering data in real time. So that was really cool. And that really got me into the very technical side of UX. Once I graduated, I started working on a marketing team at a startup called TerraDepth in Boston. And that's kind of what brought me here. And so there I got to learn a lot more about user journey and kind of customer experience, as opposed to the user experience on their actual platform. So I was working more with the website and with clients, and not really on features, but on how to portray them and how to, the marketing side of things. So it kind of gave me that full design wheel, I guess, from picking up a customer to retaining them with it.
Yeah, I want to talk about a little bit. I kind of want to jump back to like the college days of like discovering this. I think what's like really cool about UX is like you're combining like these engineering skills of like an HTML with also like your interest in like fashion and like design. And I feel like when I went to college, I feel like I didn't even know what UX was until like 4 or 5 years ago. Did you know what like UX was going into school? Like, did you even know that was like a profession?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I always thought that design couldn't even really, I didn't think of it as a profession that would be sustainable even. I'm from a small town in Iowa.
Yeah.
Like you. I was not exposed to very much design. I'd never seen an agency in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about advertising even, or just design as a whole I didn't see that as something I could do.
A sustainable lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so you understand like, okay, like, oh, I can actually do this as a career. You start taking some courses, some projects. Is there one, if someone's listening right now, they're like, okay, like, you know what, this UX design thing like seems pretty cool. Like I kind of want to get interested in and like learn more about it. What would be like a project that you would recommend someone to like get their feet wet with UX on like a very basic level?
So one of the first UX projects I did, which introduced me to a lot of the theoretical topics, was taking a current website and doing a fake redesign, like pretending I was going up in front of the board, and I used eBay for mine.
Nice.
Going up in front of the board of eBay and saying, okay, this is what I proposed you do for your website here on out. This is what's wrong with it. And what I loved about this project is it wasn't just focused on the digital experience, but also what are people getting out of it, and how did that, like, how is this affecting people's actual lives?
Yeah.
And that was really cool to me to see it kind of as a full circle, as not just, tapping on a screen, but bringing it into their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would recommend someone to go to like an eBay or like a Lululemon or I don't know, at any of these platforms, just redesign their website to get experience actually designing the workflows and everything.
Yeah. And how I even started, it wasn't even the technical design. So I didn't know, I had just started working in Figma, the prototyping tool that I use every day now. But a lot of it was kind of strategy and thinking and research. There was competitive research and some UX research, interviewing people, and then also just kind of thinking through how the experience should be and putting it out in kind of a presentation form with features listed and ideas, kind of very theoretical and high level before getting into the weeds of learning how to actually implement it.
Yeah. What is UX research? What is UX research?
So UX research is the kind of, it comes at every stage of building a product, but it's essentially just the user research. You're interviewing people, you're doing competitive research on websites, you're analyzing. So a lot of times I'll interview people or a target audience or a broader audience to figure out that target audience.
Interesting.
And I'll take all their answers and I'll synthesize them into different kind of buckets of topics, and that kind of helps to dictate how people feel about a product or an idea, and kind of helps make decisions on what to do, how to build a product, I guess.
Yeah. So is that like, if you're thinking like a whole like UX project as like a whole, is that, because I want to like help people think about like, what do I actually do in this role? Would that be like step one in developing like some sort of UX experience? Or what are those stages I should ask?
Of building a design?
Yeah, like a whole like project that you guys would typically do.
Yeah, so I would start with a lot of research, and there is not everybody. There's a million ways to do any project.
For sure.
And not everybody likes to do the research side. Some people are more into the aesthetics and the graphic side and tend to lean towards that focus. Having been in research for the first 3 years of my UX career, I find research to be very important. And so understanding my audience, however that is, if that's, reading articles about different people, if that's
interesting,
interviewing people, if that's learning more about a certain culture, or jumping into the user's shoes, kind of. However that is, a lot of times it's, when you're getting more technical with it, you are interviewing people and writing out all those interviews and taking points from each of them and seeing how they can impact a future design. And then you bring that into the design as kind of proposals.
Interesting.
Like, all these people say they have trouble with this. Okay, this is what I think would be a good strategy to solve this.
I feel like I'm actually like blown away by this is like the research that goes into like UX. Like honestly, like I had no idea like people do this when it comes to like UX careers. Like there's a lot of research and like talking to customers and like competitive analysis.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, things you wouldn't even think of, like that I'm sure you've heard about this, but like the infinite scroll, for example, on Twitter, and how the designer who invented that later regretted it because of how addictive of a feature that was. Which,
oh man,
like those little things like that are researched, and they realize, like if we keep it scroll forever versus a button that says show more, we're gonna gain this much money in revenue because just psychology. There's a ton of psychology involved, which actually UX research as a career brings in a lot of psychology, people with psychology backgrounds.
That's really interesting. I want to ask because like we've talked a little bit about like the technical side of it, like like HTML, like research, and like now psychology. Like these are three like very different pillars of building like a UX career. In your mind, if someone's like just getting started, or they're preparing to go to school and they want to be a UX designer, is there one area that you think they should focus on more compared to the others?
I think it depends a little bit on your interest, or a lot on your interest. I think you have to be able to cross over. And I mean, computer science is kind of the base of a lot of it.
Yeah.
In some areas, like now I work at a branding agency and graphic design is a big focus. And
for sure.
We do a lot of web, so content and understanding information and how it should be, the hierarchy of information. So in that case, like, or in my work now, I don't use the computer science side and the more technical side as much as I did in a more technical role. So there's UX is so broad. And there's UX writers. If you're a writer, or I mean, you're English major and you really want to get into tech, you can look into like content management or copywriting is a good like weasel into that area. Technical writing also feeds into that. If you're a computer science person, you'd probably learn more of some of the graphic side of things to kind of pivot. And graphic designers, kind of the opposite. You kind of have to learn a little bit more of the technical side of things so you can understand how design will be developed.
There's so many like different avenues of like UX, and like when it comes to like tech jobs in general, I feel like there are like a ton. I will talk about your skills in general for someone that is listening. What's the learning curve like for UX? Like in the past like year, 2 years, 3 years, I mean, is it like a pretty steep learning curve where like it's hard at the beginning, but like you really get good the more you go into, or kind of talking about that learning curve?
Yeah. So for me especially, I've been in a lot of different industries and areas of design. Getting into UX for me, I was in a very broad major, so I kind of got to dabble in a lot of different areas, and kind of I got a good understanding of a good understanding of a lot of different things, and not a great understanding of like one particular thing. So there was a lot of ways to go from there, and I'm not saying that's the right way to do it or the wrong way, but when I worked in ed tech in the AI Institute, I learned a ton about artificial intelligence, and there was lot of that technical side of things. I learned a lot about the education, but none of that stuff was stuff I knew, or even the research process, and that was all very new to me. And then switching from that into marketing was a huge learning curve. Well, because it's like, okay, I have the skills that you're asking for. You know, I know Adobe Illustrator. I have a degree. And I've kind of done a lot of this work. It's just applying it, and a lot of it's just learning the business and understanding just kind of how things work, I guess. It's like a lot of, you just kind of have to, especially at a younger age, just digest everything and kind of wing it. Wing it a little bit. You know, when you have a broad understanding of things, you get kind of you make some good estimated guesses, and then you continue to get better. And now working with hospitality brands, I don't know anything about hospitality. And I was going from kind of apps and dashboards to websites. And while I have that knowledge, it is newer. It's fresh again or I'm rusty again because it's different. So I think that's how it will be always. And depending on the kind of things you do, like now working with a lot of graphic designers, I want to know graphic design more than I did with the AI institutes. That didn't really matter there. and vice versa. I wanted to learn a lot more about AI and some of the technical things when I was with them that I didn't know so much, and now I don't need to know a lot of that.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like any career, but because UX is so broad and can be applied with a lot of different skills, there is always a learning curve.
That's interesting. I feel like that's a lot with like these entry level roles. I know just in my experience with like a sales role, like it's super, super hard at the beginning, but like it's kind of building those foundations. But like once you get good, like you can notice it. Like I'm sure you can look back now and be like, oh, like 2 years, like of growth. Gosh. But I'm sure you can definitely feel that. I also want to talk about the importance of someone building a portfolio, because you have your own portfolio. And how important is that when you are in UX? I feel like a lot of these design type roles, building a portfolio is super important. Let's just talk about like how it's been important for you.
It is extremely important to have kind of, as a designer, a personal brand. Because the work you do is a reflection of your style and how you design and what you like and your passions. So being able to portray that and portray yourself really well is a testament to your, one, who you are and all your interests, and also your skill at doing that for other people. So your portfolio really is a portfolio piece. Like as someone who I love to write, so that's something that's important to me. So in my portfolio, having a good story was really important to showcase, even if it was just my story and not an actual piece. But it is really important to kind of tailor your portfolio to what you want to do. It's hard because it takes a long time to find the perfect role in UX because it is so broad and it's really competitive. I'd say though, put your favorite things, your favorite projects, and portray them how you want to. I watched so many YouTube videos on the perfect portfolio. I read so many articles. Every single one is different.
Right, so, for sure.
Just do you the way you would want it. Make your portfolio how you want it to look, because I had so many people review it, and every single one said something different.
For sure.
The projects all need to be the same format, or I like that there's a broad range of types of projects and stuff. And so make it your brand and really think about how you want that to feel when somebody walks through it.
I feel like that's like one of the most frustrating things about like being in a creative role is like a lot of creative work is like so subjective, where it's like this person might really like it, but this person might really hate it. I don't know, like, do you feel like that's a challenge in your role when you're presenting like these projects?
Not in my role, in my job now, but when I was interviewing for positions and looking for jobs, it was really hard because I would find so many that I wanted to apply to but didn't align super well, and vice versa. Or just I would see something and be like, oh, I should have this on my portfolio for this application, but if it wasn't there, then I obviously don't find it that important. There's a lot of that. I didn't actually have a lot of pushback on aesthetics, which I was surprised about.
That's nice.
I think I think that my skill set is strongest in functionality over aesthetic. So that's what I was worried about actually going into my first interview at my current job. Is I thought they were, because they're all graphic designers, I thought they were going to see the format of my portfolio and think, ooh.
Oh, no.
Not right. Just colors and all that. But they actually really liked it. So that was kind of a nice thing to learn.
I love that. That's awesome. So we talked a little bit more about like your courses, like building portfolio. Last subject I want to talk about that I'm really curious on is like storytelling when it comes to UX. Obviously, it's a big function and it's in your LinkedIn bio. You're very passionate about it. Tell me like the importance of storytelling in UX and how do you convey a story within like user experience.
Mm-hmm. With UX, you can portray a story in a million ways. It's, you know, a million different features and text, images, the way things flow on a page, or the way that you get a pop-up, but your notifications pop up while you're driving. Like every piece of interaction is a part of your story.
Interesting.
So when you're that sounds very abstract, but
no, I don't.
In building a design, it's so important to think of how this design is going to be taken in by the user, and how it's going to impact every moment of their life. And that's really dramatic, obviously, but it's important to think about it, because otherwise, what's the point? User experience, the goal is to make better experiences for people. And so, and the story itself is kind of, I mean, either you're giving a brand story, like if you're more on the marketing side, or if you're trying to build with an app or something, I
have an example today, actually, from a horrible user experience that I will share with you.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I was ordering cologne today off Henry Rose, and they had like this pop-up thing that comes up, and it's like, you have to enter all this stuff. There was like 2 fields within like their form that was like not working, and it was so annoying to me. And like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna figure this out. But like at the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, oh, is this like kind of like a broken brand, like a brand that's like not very put together, if like this form's not working. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on like knowing your story. Like, you want it to be buttoned up.
Yeah, I mean, an example like that too, that how that impacts, well, 1, you're not going to buy it because you figured out. 2, that says that the brand doesn't care about its users because it's not making an easy experience. Try to think of the exact. So an example, I'll talk about that eBay project I did.
Yeah.
That was really fun. That was a long time ago, but it was during COVID, and my goal was to kind of revamp eBay and refresh. I'm a refresh. So during COVID, a lot of people started getting into different hobbies because they had all this time. And I wanted eBay to give the impression that they don't want people on their website. They want them to buy things to make their lives better. And so I came up with hobbies as like a break off of eBay to sell hobbies to people and allow sellers to make money off of their hobbies.
For sure.
So it's kind of to promote hobbies and community and kind of interaction during a time people weren't talking to weren't interacting with people. And also to promote the brand and show that the brand cares, and to give it a refresh. And so finding a way to tell all of that through features like chat places, the ability for sellers, like hobby sellers, to customize their own page so that they can kind of have creative expression in their on their selling page, and all that kind of stuff. So that all kind of is the big picture story. And then when you get into the little details, you can bring in all these kinds of features or the way that information is portrayed on a page.
So everything that I've heard from UX, we now have psychology, we have technical, we have design, we have storytelling, and that all combines into a UX career. And Elsy, you conveyed it perfectly in this episode. So thank you so much for joining us. Where can people, 1, connect with you, and 2, check out your portfolio?
Oh, yeah. LinkedIn, Elsy Meis, ELSYMEIS. And my portfolio is linked from my LinkedIn account.
Awesome. And everyone, those links will be down below for you to check out. Elsy, thank you so much for joining us and talking a little bit more about UX.
Thank you, Ryan. It was really fun.